Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today we have VJ Harris with us. VJ Harris, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hey everybody, my name is VJ Harris. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them. Use them interchangeably. I am a professional freelance TTRPG designer and a pro GM over on startplaying.games. If you know me from my freelance work, you probably I'm most well known for An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby, volumes 1 and 2. My work on Arcadia, and just like blatterings across DM's Guild and other like third-party publisher.
Well, let's totally pivot from all of that and talk about your hobby, which is being on stream shows, and we'll talk about Total Party Kiss, which, from my knowledge, started 1 year ago, right?
I think the channel's older than that 1 year, maybe like slightly older than that, but yeah, not more than that is my understanding.
Yeah. How did you come into that sort of group, and how did you get invited to that show, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I was mutuals with Alex, our DM for Strange Hungers, Sword Ghost most places, Aldermancy at some other places, and they reached out on TikTok to ask me, hey, you want to come and play? Like, you want to join this session? We're going to talk about what the game's going to be about. You'll meet the other players and stuff. And then I get in this call. I see like 3 other big names that I follow, and like recently became mutuals with 2 of them. And was just like, what am I doing? And what am I doing in this game? Like, are you like, if you were looking for big TikTokers, like, I'm not the one. But obviously I wasn't about to leave because of that. And so, that's just kind of where that started there with like, I don't know how well everybody else knew each other. I know one of our players, Shan, I don't think really knew anybody else like similar to me outside of like, oh, I know your name, and oh my god, hey, big following, blah blah blah. But yeah, it just started off as like mostly some strangers invited in by Alex to play in this like super detailed and really like, I guess I kind of want to say tragic a little bit world.
Yeah, it seems to be I guess it's a trope for queers to really like sappy tragedy, but
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's a thing. I don't know. I don't mean to put anybody in a box, but, you know.
I mean, you're not wrong. My character Taz is literally tragic backstory rogue, but his family is alive. Nobody's dead.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny, like through like mutuals and stuff like that. So you know that I've worked with Sloan Art Plebe, who's actually the graphic designer, our layout artist for the Vineyard, and they had previously worked with me on a few shows. I had picked them out and asked them, and they overperformed for that Bronze Girl for Shakar season 2. And the layout and the splash screen and everything. So in addition to that, though, I was just on recording the podcast with Legal Kimchi, which will be the episode before this one. And Legal Kimchi is actually, I believe, cousins with Pooja, which that was mentioned to me, and I was just like, So they're both attorneys, and they're both into TTRPGs, and they hadn't talked at all in quite a while. But I guess Kimchi was saying, it's like, yeah, I just noticed that my cousin was in the TTRPG space when I got into the TTRPG space just through happenstance.
Small world.
What's it been like to be performing for that long on stream?
Man, it's been a very excellent and fun journey. Like I don't really have any like performance background. Like I did theater in high school for like a year. It wasn't like, it was fun. It was my senior year. I was like, I've always wanted to do this. I'm not playing any sports. I have all the time. Let's go. So like, it was a great time there, but my like creative expression was always writing and not like actually performing. So actually getting to, and like, don't get me wrong, up until that point, I'd played D&D for like, I don't know, 5-6 years. So it's not like I was new to that, but it definitely feels like there's definitely a lot of more performance aspect of it when you're streaming for an audience. And so like I go back and rewatch everything for various reasons, and I'm like, okay, I've and just seeing the progression of like myself and the other players, especially some of us that like just didn't have any streaming experience, like right next to me, I was like, yeah, we're just newbies, we're babies, and like we've steadily grown better and better at it. And also, not to mention, like, it really puts it into perspective how much time D&D takes, because we've been playing for like a year, and our players have only been together for like a month and a half, maybe. It's such a it's really funny because we've been playing together for a year, so we feel these deep connections to each other, and it's
Right.
like, wait, our characters shouldn't feel that yet. But
Right.
but it's really hard to like not be like, oh yeah, this is my like long-term like best bud, like, hey, let's
Yeah.
go kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The romance plot that took you 6 months to develop was actually just like a week and a half.
Exactly.
Yeah. With that being said, were you looking at moving more into that, or is this something you think that perhaps you're going to just stick around with the groups that you enjoy performing with? You think you might want to start streaming on your own or developing content on your own? Or are you happy just to be a performer and be with those you know, like, and trust?
For a while, I was like going back and forth because I also have a TikTok where I talk about a bunch of stuff, my own projects, other projects, talk about like bigotry in the space and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I have my 15 to 3 minute videos. It's fine. Who really needs more than that? And then I was like, actually, I need more than that. So then I started a podcast.
Yeah.
and I'm doing that still. Like, it's on a like season 1's done, hiatus break until the new year. And then now I'm just sitting here like, okay, there's even more stuff that I want to do that I don't think is very good for a podcast format, like visual things, or like I play a lot of video games and I get a lot of inspirations from monsters, and I'm like I want to talk about monster design and like take something that I like to play and be like, hey, here's the steps that I go through turning this into this. So I do think sometime in the new year, like the first couple of months, I'll be venturing out into doing more stream things, at least by myself, on my like own channels and stuff. And like, I turned 29 recently, and my best friend's like 9 days older than me, and he was like, what do you want to do before you're 30? Like, we're almost out of our 20s. And I was like, I don't fucking know. and then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? There are some professional things that I would like to like. It's not the end of the world if I don't do it before I'm 30, but it would be cool if I did. And some of them were like, oh, I want to be on like this stream and this stream, or oh, I want to show up on this talk show for like TTRPG stuff. So yeah, definitely want to branch out there.
Yeah, I think that especially because you're a mechanical designer, a game designer, I think that's very interesting content for a very wide spread of, and because you have a TikTok presence, maybe you could, for instance, build a YouTube presence if you wanted. I don't know if you're like into video production. Most YouTubers I know, as I was discussing with Kimchi, like the production part of it, like kind of takes over your life, and like that's like your separate hobby. It's like, let me get this light set up perfect. But yeah, so if you are kind of into that, which I think that you are, because that you seem very right brain to me. Is that true?
The bits that I've been getting into, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Okay, yes. So I like haven't dived in yet because, as you well know, lots of projects that I'm writing on right now. But the bits that I have, I'm like, okay, this can work. Like I have a camcorder that I've had for a while that's still like very functional, like would do the job, that I dug out and was like, okay, how do I make this work with this? Because like my steps is I devour anything I can find on YouTube about whatever I'm doing. Like not related, but like I got into Minecraft and then watched like 30 hours of videos between like playing it the first time and then jumping back in afterwards. And so like have started that and was like, okay, so I have this that could work with like, oh, I have this ring light. So yeah, I can already imagine that I'm gonna like I already know it's coming. I already know.
Yeah. Let's pivot to Starlight Tales. Tell me about that, because I'm personally unfamiliar, but I'm interested to learn.
Okay, yeah, okay. So much of my week is just consumed by D&D, running it or playing it. And so every other Wednesday, I am in a Starlight Tales Twitch channel game called Tales from the Heart, Starfarers. And Starlight Tales is this like where like Total Party Kiss has a lot of different programming that's in different settings. Starlight Tales is all one setting. You can like plot exactly where each game is on the timeline of things. And it's just like out in space, like Spelljammer, a little bit of sci-fi stuff mixed in with the fantasy. And right now I'm playing a very good-looking trans guy named Corin, who's a Castellan, a race of like people that disappeared like before the breaking of like there's like a big breaking cataclysmic event, and like we existed before that, and then we pretty much stopped existing after that. So we're trying to figure out what happened to us during that time right now. And then there are like other games on the side, like there's the Dead Zone, which is people going and exploring where our people used to exist. And then there's like the Ant Farm, which is like a Hunger Games thing where the rich and powerful like pay to get people in there to like fight for their lives. And then there's this other thing that's like before I start talking about 50 different things, there's a lot of different programming and genres across the channel, but all set in the same world and all very cohesive. And it's just a really like I like being on Total Party Kiss where we each have our different things going on, but I also didn't realize how much I would love being on a channel that also has like a bunch of things going on, but they all exist in the same world and the same timeline, and like they draw from each other.
Have you considered, now that you're on SPG, to do that for your games?
Okay, so I got some really good advice from one of the top DMs on the website.
You're not talking about me, are you? Oh my god.
Who else would I be talking about? You're literally my cohort leader. Like, what kind of anyway. I got some really great advice. Do 5e, do these pre-established settings until you like get your like following who will follow you elsewhere. So I do have like I've got 4 games running right now. Mm-hmm. And all of them, like two of them are set in the Forgotten Realms and 2 of them are set in Exandria, Critical Role setting. And like I've mentioned to them, like, hey, in the unlikely event that all of you die, what do you want to do next? Do we want to stay in this setting? Do we want to pick up new characters? Do we want to try an original setting with an original storyline? My original setting with a like pretty much like taken from another adventure, third party or something storyline. And like I offer that because like the prices do change based on that. Because like if I have to pull something completely out of my ass, I'm like, okay, hey, this is going to go up. And like all of them have been like, hey, yeah, I'd love to see what you're doing with your own like world building, because they like what I'm doing with the current stuff, like all the like the things that I'm adding and whatnot. So I think there's like a lot of opportunities for that to definitely be the case going forward. And especially if I get everybody in a different place in the world, can say, oh, hey, yeah, you heard about some adventurers over here doing XYZ things. So it'd be really fun.
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity and it can be a lot of fun. I think if you are in my situation, at least this is what I tell myself, I try to limit those or how interactive like the world might be if you're affecting each other, because it can get overwhelming and take up a lot more time for prep. You're on 4 games. Are you attempting to scale up more than 4 games right now, or are you happy with 4?
Yes, and also I lied. I'm on 5 games. There's an every other Saturday game that is also in the Forgotten Realms.
4.5.
Yes, I feel like I've gotten into a good rhythm with my like freelance work and actually running the games, and like and I'm starting to do some more like world building and switching over to a different VTT for this and like learning that before. But yeah, in the new year, like I really want to. There's a Curse of Strahd / She is the Ancient meets Spelljammer campaign that I'm really excited to get off the ground and start running. Nice. And like it's like I might be blaming like Interview with a Vampire for this, but I fell in love like with some like 20 style clothing, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Like this, like
how gay is that show, by the way? I love it.
Oh my god,
it's so gay.
I gotta go rewatch it. I actually haven't watched the last episode. I don't know what I'm doing.
I've got a couple left. I wait to watch it with my gay girlfriend. So yeah, so we enjoy it together. But so that's super cool. So She is the Ancient in space. Second edition is coming out. I'm a contributor for that. I wrote the partners. So whenever that comes out, the partners will be different, but they have like goals and stuff that you can sort of point them to for like different plots and stuff. That you can sort of leverage. I guess I'll just leave out the details on that, but it's more than what it normally comes with in the Curse of Strahd book, which is nothing. So yeah, I had like a page each, so I was like, okay, how do I fit as much value into one page for each of these people? So I tried my best.
I can't wait to get that. I can't wait to get the second one, because the first one was just like
it's going to print, so I'll get to put it on my bookshelf. So that'd be really cool, because all of the stuff that I've thus far published has not gone to print. It's just been like PDF or whatever, or it hasn't been printed and hasn't been shipped yet. So I'm eagerly awaiting that, because then I'll have something on my shelf that has my name in it. But anyway, enough about me. This is about you. So, for you and scaling and stuff like that, how much time right now do you think you spend for 4 games during your week?
So I did a lot of upfront work because I knew that it was going to be like just the way my brain was set, it was going to be hard for me. So now all I have to do is like, I want like take Exandria Tales of War, for example, which is the War of Ash and Light. They're fighting the Dwendalian Empire. They stole the beacons, all this other stuff. Like I have all of the plot, like the beats set out and like the important people that are involved in it. And of course that changes depending on what the players do. But right now, like any of my prep is like, oh, you know what? I think I want a different war machine for them to fight. So I go play some Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn, and then I stat out those monsters. Like that's pretty much where it is right now. And like a little bit of cleaning up. Like I use a lot of Excel spreadsheets. It like helps me stay, it helps me stay organized, and also it like helps me know everything, like keep track of the players, like really important stats. But part of that is also like I like already having all of the like races, pronouns, gender identities, like brief descriptions of the characters they're going to meet. And it's like sometimes I'll go in and tweak that, or like if somebody, like for example, the every other Saturday game, I've taken to like saying, oh hey, this is such and such, pronouns he him, a cis man, or just like, hey, these people definitely exist in the setting. But one of my players was like, hey, I feel kind of weird with you like saying cis man, trans woman. Like it feels like playing into the you can always tell. I was like, oh yeah, that totally wasn't my thought process, but I totally understand. So like my next prep for that was just going in and removing the actual like their genders, or like taking it out of the, like it's still in the notes, but it's not in like the little combined description for it anymore. So maybe they find out about it some other way, but it's just like, oh yeah, he uses they them pronouns or like that. So it's mostly just cleaning up stuff now. That's
very interesting. I can see how as like a trans person that might bother someone. And in that respect, I can see how someone would have that reaction. Yeah, I think I'm a bit of a weird, how do I say this? I'm a late bloomer. So like my opinion of like trans stuff is very different than most people's, I think. So I understand that personally. And like, I'm not saying that like my opinion is better or whatever than anybody else's, but like, I know that I have like a lot of unworked like trauma and issues that I still have to unpack. I try as much as possible. All that to say, I try as much as possible not to express my judgment. There's nothing more common and like tropey, I guess, than like trans people not getting along with other trans people because they have a different opinion about trans issues. Yeah. So I try to just let it be. But I can totally understand that though, for the purposes of like, you just want to like, I think for me, when I get into a game, and for me, because I believe that I started out with as more of like a they them, because I wasn't really sure like what the other side would be like. But then once I looked over the fence, I was like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm like, I believe that I want to go all the way with everything. And I was like, I immediately told my position. I was like, we're upping my estrogen. Like I'm going as far as I can. So I think for me, it's more a matter of like, I have throughout my entire life, when I've read and I've written and I've role played in these other environments, especially text-based stuff, I have always imagined myself a particular way, and it was always best for me mentally, in a comfort way, I suppose. When I'm role playing these characters, it's always been better for me if there's no question of like the identity. If people just accept me for being femme, something that makes me feel happy. But when you're a GM, obviously you want to try and make everybody really comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think like still like having the pronouns in there does like obviously pronouns don't equate to gender inherently, but it still gets across that like, hey, there are lots of different identities in the setting. So like not everybody is going to be cis. There's a lot of variety here. There's neo pronouns in there, like just all across. But to answer the original question, all in told, I think I'm at like 10, maybe 15 hours of prep across all of it right now because I front loaded so much of it.
And you're 3 or 4 hour games?
3 hour games. Sometimes 2.5 if we like get at a place where I'm like, this is the perfect spot to stop. If we go any further, it's gonna end on like a really janky note. But
so you're almost at 30 hours a week then. Ish.
Yeah.
30 hours a week, and then you have like your full time of writing, and that's another probably like 30 or 40 hours, right?
Yeah, I'm
You're busy. I'm busy.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm doing
And
a
you're
lot.
streaming. And you're
And
streaming.
I'm streaming.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot.
Yeah.
I need to I really need to get a handle on the writing side of it, because like I can't do much about like how many I mean I can do much about how many hours I'm running games, but I'm like I'm not going to change how many hours I'm running games.
Right.
Like it is what it is, but I can do better with time management of my like full like my freelance stuff, because right now that kicks me in the ass a lot, and I need to get better.
I found that I'm at the far end of I've reached my mortal limits, and like my spirit is much stronger than my body. So I've like basically just transformed into like this workaholic that I run average 12 games. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little bit less. And then also I do writing, and then I run this show, and I do newsletter, and I do social stuff, and I'm doing the project management for the Vineyard and all that. And then I basically don't have hobbies. But I find that I did watch a little bit of Critical Role the other week. So I did do that, the Mighty Nine reunited thing. But I find that after I get to a certain point, I'm just like, I have no energy for anything. And I'm just like wasting away, like hoping that I get the inspiration or the ability to keep working. But I found that I've loaded so much onto my plate that it can be really difficult to manage that. And being a full-time GM, it can be difficult for me, at least, to find the energy to do things other than manage my players and run good games. I'm still figuring it out in a lot of ways. It is difficult. I have off weeks where I'm just like, if I have like an emotional thing happen for me as women do when they're on hormones, right? It's at least once a week I have like something happen, like I have my cry session, right? And then I have to cancel a game sometimes and like take a mental health day. Because right now I'm running games 6 days a week. I try to make sure I always get my sleep at least, because I know that if I don't get my sleep, then it greatly affects my performance no matter what I'm doing. I don't know how I got on that. We were talking about schedules and how busy we are.
Yeah.
I wish I had 5 more hours a day.
I've been kind of toying with the idea, and like I've talked to my players. They're like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe doing this for the games that aren't every other week, like the ones that we do it every week. I'm like, hey, maybe in the new year, we like last week of the month, we take a break, we don't play, so that way I have like pretty much that week off from running. Like I took the week of Thanksgiving off, and I'm taking the week of New Year's off, obviously, because actual holidays. And I was like, I felt so refreshed. I'm like, you know what? I need to when I up the games, because I'm gonna start with 1 slot for the Curse of Strahd Spelljammer game. And then if that, I'm imagining it does well. Like it's one of the Curse of Strahd's like one of the really good games, and She's the Ancient's like really good. And like if that does well, then like opening up another one, and and having those be every week as well, like earlier in the days, earlier in the afternoons, because I run mostly evening games, depending on like who jumps in it, and then be like, hey, once a month we're not playing. I'm just taking a breather, and I like, because I've also had like times where it's like, hey guys, I'm not having I'm having a hard personal time. We need to cancel this game, and it's always like I'm like thank the Lord that my brain, like whenever it's going to do that, it's usually like, hey, the day before or early in the morning, like, hey, you can't do this today or tomorrow. So I like there's a lot. It's not like it's like 30 minutes, like, hey, sorry, I got to cancel. Like that's never happened, and I'm so happy about it because I feel so bad. But like I've taken those little breaks, and like if I do these games, up the prices for some of them because I'm adding new things and doing other things and doing it every week, I can afford to take that week off, and like all I'm doing is writing. And if I'm lucky, I'm not even doing a lot of writing if I've managed my time correctly.
I think that's the dream, honestly, is like if you're using SPG and you get established and like you can use it as supplementary income, but you're not dependent on it. I think that's the ideal case for most people within the TTRPG space, because being in TTRPG just not enough to sustain you, but SPG can be pretty consistent depending on how you run your business. And if you're very on top of it and you're very responsible and you run it like a professional, it can be pretty, you just have to work at, making sure that you are doing your due diligence as much as possible. But yeah, I'm totally that person though, VJ. Like I one time, so you know how so Anya's our campaign manager, right, for Kickstarter. When she agreed to join the campaign for Vineyard, It was a Thursday, and I like had that happen where we had the meeting earlier that day, and I just like laid down on my bed and I cried for like, an hour and a half or 2 hours, and that was right before my game. So I showed up to my game late after my players like pinged me, and I was like still like sobbing. And I was like, okay, I just need like 5 minutes so that I can run this game. And I have like that, I have that. Even if like nothing bad's going on, I feel like my body and I need to cry once a week now. So if I don't, I'll find something to cry about. And sometimes it just means like everything's going really well. And then that's my cycle. Anyway, understanding that though, my players really kind to me, and they're very supportive of who I am and what I need and stuff, because they know that I'm gonna be like in it for a long haul, and sometimes they might miss a week or whatever because I'm an emotional bitch, but that's what you get if you sign up with me. I'm trans. I'm not that person that's gonna stuff down their feelings all the time anymore.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's really cool actually, in the way that I have been able to build my business around my identity a little bit. People like filter themselves out. Like I haven't had someone come in and try to be a troll. Not for $40 a game. Like no one's paying $40 a game to like be mean to me. If anything, they're all a bunch of softies. But I'm very thankful for my players in my community. A lot of them initially quoted looking for either a trans or a femme identifying GM because they're queers. Over half of my players are queers. Which is not something I anticipated, but apparently I'm cornering the market on the queers.
Excuse me, stop doing that. I'd like them over here too, please. Which also, I think, you know what? I think a nice chunk of my players are too. Just
yeah.
So
if you put it in your profile, I think that's a kind of a thing that marginalized people especially look for, right?
I know I have it in all the games, like, hey, this is XYZ friendly, but I'm like, is it in my profile that it's friendly? Because, hey, I am these things. You know what? I should go check that. If it's not, I should definitely go check that.
I saw a lot of people advertising. Okay, so here's the cycle, right? I do something on my ads, people see it, and then they start doing it, right? And not to like sound like I'm totally full of myself, but this happens so often. Like when I try a new technique, people just blindly try it. Like they don't even they don't question it. They just put it in their games, even when it's like not, for them. But I started doing like the flags and like, hey, it's gay and trans friendly, right? I saw a lot of people started doing that, which is okay, which is great. I am glad that more games are trans and gay friendly. But then I was like, okay, well, how do I differentiate myself then? Everybody's apparently trans friendly, from the cissest to the, the gayest, So I started putting trans gay GM in my pro, and I was like, they can't copy that.
Exactly. Unless they are like
they gotta go all in.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to assume anything about anybody, but I also wonder how many people that are doing that are actually are not bigoted, are not like KKK level of bigoted, obviously, but also aren't doing the let me make sure I don't have any microaggressions or anything. I'm like, how many of them actually are? I don't know.
You want to? Okay, let's talk tea. So there are some GMs on SPG who put that they are a safe and inclusive space, yet they are the exact opposite of that. And players find out pretty quickly. And I'm not going to say which demographic that those people belong to, but I bet you know. So there's a lot of people out there who might try to leverage identity as like a marketing tool or anything. And that's really unfortunate because a lot of the people who are marginalized are just seeking a safe space to play. So I think that in general, if you're going to be advertising, I think it's probably better if you just don't emphasize it. Like if you are safe and inclusive, obviously include it like maybe in your description or something, and that you have like rules against, of course, like any GM probably should, just like any business should, to like openly advertise it and like promote that as though you are a safe space when you're not a member of that identity, I think can be problematic. You have so many bad actors out there who are trying their rainbow capitalism with other people's like trauma.
Yeah, and I mean, what are you supposed to do about it? Like, what are you even supposed to do about it besides like be like, I'm going to be an actual safe space. So if you come across me, you can know that you're fine.
Yeah, I'm not like those other GMs who are pretending to be gay. I'm actually gay.
Listen, I'm all the things. Listen, come to me. I got you.
Yeah. It's one of those, I don't know specifically what to necessarily do about it, except encourage people to report GMs who are not following the rules, who are not obeying terms of service on SPG, who are not abiding by safety tools, things like that, because these GMs are like a blight on the industry, create a lot of RPG horror stories. And some of these people, unfortunately, like I remember being on a call with more than one of my players, like who had been abused in some way by another GM on SPG, and they're like telling me, and I'm like, just like, you got to tell the safety team. The safety team actually does care a lot. So if you're a player at SPG and you report something, they do look into it. And if a GM is abusing players, they will ban that GM. There just has to be like basically a trail of it, more or less, because it's difficult to arbitrate that. But any evidence you can bring to them is very helpful, and they just keep their eye on that GM and see if they're a problem. There have been GMs removed from SPG because they are not doing the right thing, and SPG doesn't want them. No one GM is so amazing that they're gonna bring down SPG. Like me, even in like the top 5, right? So even combined per month, what do we bring in? Like maybe, I don't know, like 20,000, 25,000. Like if we're averaging 3,000 to 5,000 a month, right? I think I'm at like 5 to 7 right now, but before taxes. So it's not impressive.
That is the dream. Listen, that is still a dream.
It is. But it's a hell of my own creation. Even if like we're bringing in that much money, that's not that much money for like a company like SPG when they have literally all these other people to bring in and are going to do the right thing. So it's a difficult position to be in, and it's unfortunate because some people have their first paid GM as a really bad. I had a really bad experience with my first paid GM. It's through PayPal, through Roll20 forums. We played on Fantasy Grounds, but yeah, it was weird. There was a lot of red flags. There was a red flag like, hey, I need you to fill out this entire ginormous requirement for you to create a character. And here's a list of things that I absolutely hate, and I think you're a terrible player if you want to do this. And I was just like, holy shit, like, this guy's serious. And then, of course, got into the game and like was not a very fun GM to play with, was more of like a curmudgeon, pseudo abusive. Like, it was weird. Yeah, didn't go back. I gave it the 3-session try, and I was like, I'm not going to continue to pay for this because this person doesn't facilitate.
You're better than me. The 3-person try. I was going to say first session, but 2 sessions. I'm like 2 sessions. Yeah. First sessions could just be growing pains.
Well, I will say the only reason I did 3 sessions is because you bought them in bulk. I would have done one and done. Bulk? This was a PayPal deal. Yeah, this was like back in the day. I think this was 2020. Yeah, so SPG had just gotten off the ground. So nobody knew what it was, and I was just like kind of looking around. It's like, oh, I want to play D&D. This person advertised they're playing Storm King's Thunder, and maybe this will be fun. It was not fun. Let's pivot to talking about your work on DM's Guild. Elfin and Orc had a little baby. How'd you get on that project? And let's talk about it.
Yeah, so Adam Hancock, my amazing co-designer. So I got into the TTRPG space by starting to review things. Like, I realized the DM's Guild existed. I also realized I don't have a lot of disposable income, but I do like the game, and I've been playing for a hot minute at that point, at least like 4 or 5 years. And I was like, you know what? I would love to just start reviewing stuff. So that's what I did. I started reviewing and was like, hey, I'd love to do a review of this. Is there any chance I can get a complimentary copy to do so? And that's how I started building out my DM's Guild library. And then at a certain point, I made my first product, which was Restless, a guide to laying incorporeal undead to rest. because I was running God, what's it called? Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Never finished it, but I didn't like the options for like the poltergeist in the tavern.
yeah.
So I was like, how do we fix this? So I made this thing, and it was the first like published piece of work I ever made. I'd made homebrew stuff before, but like this I put out to the public, and it definitely needs a rewrite, because it got a scathing review like a year, like maybe 2 years ago. Scathing but fair. Like it's not like it was like blah, blah, garbage. I was like, okay, you know what? This is very scathing, but it's fair and legitimate, and I'm a much better designer now. So I do at some point need to go back and redo that. I got in the space, I was reviewing, I had a Twitter now for this stuff, and then I was also talking about like racism and bigotry in the products. And I like, you don't have to have a degree to talk about this stuff. You can learn independently, like you can do your own research. But I went to college and got my degree in public relations as a fallback in case like the thing I actually wanted didn't work. Creative writing with a focus in African American and queer studies. And all I really wanted to do with that was tell stories about Black queer people. Like my dissertation to graduate with that was talking about spanking in the Black community and how it was like a complete disservice to like Black kids in general. Doing like interviews with like people that were spanked, older generations, the younger kids, all that good stuff. I had these like wild and grand plans with that, and then I dived into like wasn't even doing anything with the writing part, but was doing like social activism and stuff. But then here we are in the Twitter space, like, oh, we're talking about racism. I was like, oh, I can talk about that. I like, I'm a Black guy, and not to mention I like, you know, have all of this like academic knowledge that I can be like, hey, like this looks like this sounds like this. And then we were talking about race and stuff, and Adam reached out to me one day. It was like, hey, do you want to work on this project together? And I was like, absolutely. And so like the point, for those of you that don't know, Elven and Orc Had a Little Baby takes all of the official, the volume 1 at least, takes all of the official 5e races and splits them up between parentages and upbringings, because there is a lot of like bioessentialism in D&D 5e races. And like pretty much what I'm saying there is like, it's like saying, one race is always going to be good at something, even though on a biological basis, even though it doesn't make sense. So like, for example, the example I like to use when I'm talking to people about it is like an orc that has never lifted a finger in their life, grew up in a pampered household, should not be inherently stronger than a gnome who spent their entire life working in a mine. And I saw like the ASI as that like, oh, orcs are always going to have a strength advantage regardless of what their actual lifestyle is, with the like getting the bonus to that. And then of course there were like some of the negative modifiers to things that just like played into some like, you know, anti, like for orcs in particular, anti-Black, anti-Indigenous stereotypes, and like some of the other language. So pretty much the point of writing this was like to redo the lore so that it didn't have those racist stereotypes, to separate the bioessentialist part, and to give players more like more freedom and choice over their characters. And we're working on volume 3 right now, probably the last like major volume. Might like update it with new stuff, but working on volume 3 right now, and it's been like a joy to do so. Like I've gotten multiple opportunities for additional work because of the work on an Elf on Orc Baby. Like multiple other projects have been like, hey, can you come in and do lineages? And I'm like, yeah, sure, totally. Like I'll drop in and do this and add the point system so people that want to can like go back and use it on our own products too. Like it's been such a joy, and I've been like able to talk about and work and like utilize the creative writing aspect things and the African American study part of things like in the actual writing, to like make sure, like try and make sure we're not doing any like fucky wucky shit anymore with all of it. And so it's just, like I think about it and I'm like, God, I'm so glad Adam like asked me to be a part of this.
Yeah, sometimes that's how it goes, right? Like you not necessarily your first, you know, publication or your first gig, but sometimes it's one gig leads to another gig leads to another gig. Kimchi was asking me, he's like, how did you get all these people on the Vineyard? And I was like, I don't know, I just cold emailed all of them. But a lot of it was just, I mean, that's how, like, you know, well, I connected with you because of SPG, but a lot of people, like, honestly, I didn't think we're going to say yes, but a lot of it is just like, I'm going to pay you. They like the idea. That's enough for most people. You know, as long as you're being compensated enough and you kind of like the idea, then they'll jump on the project. And there's other factors like, hey, would I really think that this person is going to bring something big to the project. Obviously, everyone that I've invited, I think, has brought a lot to the project, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of, their work. I'm very satisfied with it across the board. But a lot of the time it's difficult for people to make those first inroads into networking. And networking is like a bad word, because if you're inherently out for yourself, then networking would be considered to be bad. But I tried to think about it as like, what opportunities can I provide people or create with people? Looking at it in that respect, I think, is a much more productive way to get people to work with you. Because if I'm not paying you enough to make it worth the hassle of working with someone new, or if I'm not providing a comfortable enough environment or a professional enough environment, then it's just a hassle, right? I just think like you're not doing yourself any favors if like you're inviting people to projects and you aren't the investor. Like if you're not the investor, then you're basically asking people to work with you for free and take a chance that everything else is going to be amazing.
Yeah, like I definitely get the networking, like what other things you can like do with other people, like that's pretty much my, like whenever I'm talking on like TikTok about making things and whatnot, people like, I want to get in this, like, and like I'll be like especially if like I already know them as a mutual, I'll be like, hey, let me know whenever you want to start. Like I'm always down to work with a new person to get them into the thing and like help them do whatever, because like I had that person, like Adam helped me like the work got me more. The work led to so many other opportunities. And like, listen, everybody, assuming you're not a god awful person, everybody deserves, even if you're a god awful person, because I think everybody deserves to make money and be able to live. Like I think everybody deserves a person who can help them get into the space in such a way that they can support themselves or whatnot. Yeah. So I'm just like, and like, while I'm not going to work with somebody who's a god awful person, and so it's very much like when I network is like, what can we do together? How can we build each other up? And less about like, oh, you've got like 18,000 followers. All right, let me ask you to do a project so I can see if that translates into money for me. Not to say that like, if somebody with a big following is like, hey, you want to do a thing? I'm not like, you have so many people that are probably going to buy this. Like, this might change like my monthly income and like give me some breathing room. Like, obviously there's that excitement there, but it's not the first thing. It's like, yeah, what can we do together? How can we like make each other better before it gets to like the monetary gain part of it?
Yeah, I'm personally super thankful for people that gave me an opportunity. Amongst them, like the first show that I went on, and Chris, who cast me in that show, and that really got me started in it. And then I started running my own shows. And then Lou Anders, who was very supportive for me running Drones and Bones.
Yep. I was like, I know that name.
Yeah, Lou Anders, who actually has a Kickstarter, I think that's wrapping up here, that I have the materials, the playtest that I'll be running with some of my players. But so like Lou Anders, and then like Chelsea Steverson, Little Red Dot from Kobo Press, who took a chance on me, and like I've been working with for like a year now on a couple of things, and now she's writing on the Vineyard as well. And Jasmine, who I worked with as a content manager, all these people just like took a chance on me. And then like Michaela Ebel, and her partner for One Night Straw, and like I kind of got involved in that as the marketer. And then it's just really, a lot of it is momentum, and just for me, it's really, it is lucking out. But like I see a lot of people who are like, yeah, I would love to get into the space. A question of, can you provide something that's going to be beneficial to everyone? Or are you just looking to benefit off of someone else's labor? So if you're not meeting people halfway, at least, or you're not doing the additional, it can be really hard to break into the space, because if you're not working, then you're not working. But if you're already doing the work and you're already doing stuff on your end to either build a platform, write more and put it out there, and work with other people, then it comes a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, like I know we have like a story, like, the storytellers collective that like, helps people make their first games in a variety of amount of systems now. I really wish there was like it would be great if there were like more, and I could just not know that these exist, like more courses about like the more like technical side of things, and like not saying that there isn't technical writing, but like, you have the creative writing part of things that has technical and like fluff writing, which, both very very valuable. And then there's the actual like, oh, hey, here's hey, here's the attitude you want to have going into here first off. And then here are the other things that you're probably going to have to do to make sure you're successful outside of the writing part. So like
Storytelling Collective is such a valuable resource for many people. And I remember talking to Sebastian about the early iterations of that and how that is how they basically got their start and they progressed, and me looking at it and sort of nudging both Kenzie and then myself, like the best thing you can do, invest in yourself when you start to make a little bit of money. Because when you make a little bit of money, that's not money that you immediately, I think if you're building a business, you should turn around and like blow on what you want. If you want to actually use that momentum to gain more business, to grow your brand, to grow yourself as an artist or a writer or whatever it is that you're doing, you should invest in that. For the same reason that I pay into B Dave's courses that he puts out. I'm going to learn something from B Dave. Like and this is someone that I've been on a panel with B Dave, and I've had B Dave in for our cohort talks, like I've talked to personally, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm still, no matter when B Dave has something to say, I'm like, I should pay attention to this because I could probably learn something. And lo and behold, I do. So I think it's very important that people focus, at least if they're independent or they're freelancing. What are you doing to get better all the time? And you should be focusing on that because your writing, like you said, from 2 years ago should not be like you're writing today.
Exactly. And like you said, like all the time, like recently, Alex was telling me how they read like the book Orientalism to like be better prepared to integrate a lot of like different people and cultures into the setting that we're playing in. And I'm just like, yeah, like that's on my reading list now. Like I'm working through writing the other, like it's a book with a lot of workshops in it. Like I've read excerpts from it before in some of my creative writing classes because I was like, hey, I want to be able to do this, but I'd never gotten the full series and like gone through it. And like the class is kind of out of my budget right now, but the book, I can do that and get better on myself. Like a list of things that I'm like, okay, when I get some more money, I'm gonna watch this course. I'm gonna take this course. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. Like always doing some type of professional development. It's also why I back so much shit on Kickstarter. Like it's like, okay.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, like and it's like 9 times out of 10, it is literally like, okay, I'm backing this, I'm gonna read it. What have they done? It was really successful. How can I incorporate that into my works moving forward? And like also because I look at it as like a academic, like professional building thing. I like, write it off on my taxes later on.
Yeah,
like, hey, I was like, hey, I got this for this and this and blah blah blah, and it's perfect because it's not a lie. It's like, okay, and then I just get to have nice things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I buy a lot of stuff because my hobby is now my job. I buy a lot of stuff that I'm going to be writing off of my taxes.
Exactly. There's a downfall to having your hobby be your job in the sense of not having things connect, but there's also an upside when it comes to taxes at the end of the year.
When I was first starting the Vineyard, because that project obviously like took its own, like it just, someone hit the nitro button because I initially got Michaela to agree to jump on, and then after that it was like Gabe agreed, and then I was like, oh shit, this is a really serious project now. I was like, oh no. So I took a college course about queerness and horror based around the book Monsters in America, I think it's called. I'll have to look it up later. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. But it was all about how basically like disability and queerness. Are you Googling it right now? I'm going to put it in the show notes. I think it's
okay, cool.
So it's Monsters in America, our historical obsession with the hideous and the haunting. I'm going to link you right now. But it is probably one of the best books that I've read. And we did a whole class about like the movies that are talked about in this book and how basically like Dracula is essentially, if you study it, what it plays on or what it played on when the movie was released. They really emphasize certain parts of the original novel in order to capitalize on like what would be horrific to people of that era. And at that time, it was Jews and Eastern Europeans. So that's in queers. So like they really emphasized like the fact that Dracula didn't have like a traditional like marriage and was kind of gay. And there was like that predator gay like vibe for Dracula. And there's also a lot of aspects of like so the Jewish people who were coming to England at the time, and that was played up in such a way like you were invading essentially in some way, and they didn't belong for that reason. So there's a ton of like, they go all the way up to I believe even like more modern examples like Cloverfield. So there's like a little bit, and there's a little bit through each era of film, and I thought it was very interesting. And really made me think about, how do I run horror games in a way that is both safe, and then how do I do it in such a way that understands that sometimes horror is really just playing on people's bigotry and their fear of what they don't understand, and how can I create a horror experience without someone that I may be playing with.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, because I once had James I don't remember what I said. I did something, and James was just like, "I want to play in a horror game with you," and I was like, I don't even know if I'm good at that. I don't know if I'm terrible at that or not yet. But I said I did or said something, or maybe made a TikTok video about something, and there was like great pacing in it, and it was like horror. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, I can't wait to read that.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's fascinating. The entire thing is just fascinating. I highly recommend it. W. Scott Poole wrote it, and he's come out with very similar books along that genre. Is always focusing on horror. He's a D&D player himself, actually. I emailed him about the Vineyard. Doesn't have time to contribute, but maybe we'll talk, and he'll boost it when it comes out. Is what he said, because he was interested in buying it based on my description of it. But yeah. So moving on to, because we're eventually going to run out of time, we need to talk about Arcadia and Flea Mortals. Let's talk about your experience.
Yeah. So you know how I mentioned that An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby got me on more projects, has got me on even better projects. Like An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby, I did my first project, I published it on my own, and then I also entered like a thing for MT Black, but it wasn't like a collaborative thing. It was like a contest, and you just put it all together. And I don't even think we got paid. I don't even know if it was for any money or not. I can't remember. I just wanted to dip my toes into it, and it was all right. But down the line, I eventually did some work with James for Sly Flourish's stuff, actually, like for some layers or whatnot before James went to go work for MCDM. And then when Arcadia was like, getting pitched, James sent me an email like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And like, I can trace a very dirty but like accurate line from An Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby working on it, to getting invited on to work for Arcadia, and I'm just like, absolutely. So first off, the best company I have ever worked for. And I say that in like terms of like ownership, payment, all of that good stuff. And it's and like on the payment front, I for the most part, I'm very rigid about how much I would like to be. What's the right, when it comes to companies, like when I first started out doing it, I was a lot less. I was a lot more like, yeah, I'll take this. Like even if it was like slightly less than you should probably be doing for the industry standard. Because like I want to get my foot in the door. I wasn't doing it full time at that point. I had another job, so it's like not the end of the world if you're only paying me 3 cents per word. It's not great, but it's not like I'm not gonna have my bills paid this month or anything. But now I'm a lot more like rigid with how much I'll like write something for a company. And my prices still vary for like individuals, DMs, guild products, that kind of thing, based on their budget and stuff. How will I know them? But never anything that like isn't going to be good for me financially. But I never have to worry about that with MCDN, because just first off, 25 cents per word, which is way above the industry standard. I don't even and it might be better than what I don't know what Wizards of the Coast pays, but it might be better, who knows. But
not that much.
Okay, well, see, 25 cents. First off, 25 cents per word. Second, just the whole like when it comes to Arcadia magazine stuff, just the whole like I have final say on what happens with my articles. Like James can come in and suggest 50 million things, all of that, and I can be like, no to all of it. Like, and because my name's gonna go on it, it's not like Arcadia is very disjointed with some of the stuff sometimes, purposely so, like not in an unorganized way, right? It's like, hey, we have a bunch of different things for various things you could possibly use in your game, and so like very much like, yeah, I was trying to go for this with this, so I can't change this to this. And just kind of accepts that when I say that. Versus like Flea Mortals, which I also wrote in, where I did like the Basilisk. There's like 3 I redid Incorporeal Undead. I send that in. My name doesn't get tied to it specifically for like a good reason. There's only so much work I do on that, and then it gets sent off, and then like James makes changes. Maybe even Matt makes changes if he's doing that. I don't know the full back end process, but it's like I do up to X amount of work, and then it goes in and they do other stuff. But still, like at various parts, it's like, hey, I'm trying to get this out of this. How do we like figure out how to do that with how you want it done? And there's still like that back and forth conversation of like, hey, this is my, like, you wanted me to do something new with this, so here, and this is what I'm thinking, how do we meet that in the middle? And there are most of the projects I've worked on, I've just gotten like free range, go do whatever, and then bring it back and we'll edit it. 1 or 2, it's been like very strict, no deviation, no nothing, no argument, hey, we want this, fix. And it's like, you're paying me, I do like the project. It's not like it's not like you're a bigot or anything. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll work on it. But like MCDM gives a lot of freedom across the board when it comes to making stuff that I really like and respect. And obviously there's a time and place for that. But I've never felt like if I like suggest something, it's 100% guaranteed going to be shot down and not like considered. And then after considered, potentially worked with together to like get it to where we both want it, since especially with like individual Arcadia issues, because my name is literally on it. It's like, yeah, this is my design work, versus like people aren't going to know that I wrote the Basilisk or the Incorporeal Undead unless I tell them, or unless MCDM like markets that as part of it, and they don't do that all the time, which is fine. I'm just like, hey, yeah, no, I worked on this too. Like, I'm in this book. I did this. So yeah, it's just like, they're the best company I've ever worked for, and I hope that I get to continue to do it, which I imagine, assuming I still have good ideas to pitch for Arcadia, I will get to do so. But also like, God, like I would love to, like, if I could put my fingerprints on every single thing that they work on, like a setting book, adventures, right. I would die happy.
If I was a contributor to Flea Mortars, I would like be on my roof every morning, like yelling it to my neighborhood for no reason.
So I have 2 articles in Arcadia now. The first one was monstrous components, which like you take the little monster giblets and use it in spells. And every time, like I watch Matt on Twitch and YouTube. I like his design work. I like, he's good background noise for me when I'm working, because I can't not have anything going. And every time this man has like praised the monstrous components article, I have made a TikTok about it and lost my shit. Like I have fanboyed about this man loving this article. Like we're like, what is it? We're in like issue 24 or something. And like a little while ago, like earlier this month, maybe late in October, Matt said something that was like, yeah, I can't wait to use the monstrous component article. And I was just like, this man is talking about this shit again. And I'm just like, like just losing my shit.
It's nice to be appreciated, isn't it?
It is. It's really nice to hear about it. I'm just like, I don't think it's gonna stop. Like every time he mentions it, I'm just about to be like, well, y'all know what time it is. Time to do this again.
Do you have anything that you are currently allowed to talk about besides MCDM work?
Yeah. So obviously I'm working on Elf and an Orc Had a Little Baby Volume 3. Like I said, probably the final big volume. If Wizards of the Coast keeps putting out official 5e races and stuff, I don't know how we're going to do it, but in my mind, I'm like kind of imagining like, oh, we'll just, update the final volume or whatever. Like, hey, here's the add-on to that. Like, thanks for being a customer. And then I'm the project manager and a writer on a thing called Unnamed Space Project. We haven't like figured out any of the titles, but that's coming to Kickstarter like sometime next year. And it's pretty much just like, we are leaning in more to the sci-fi aspect of Spelljammer, and like building that out, getting more combat to combat rules, more rules on like building out your ships and stuff, more linear, more like I got to write all the species, which was really exciting for me. Still debating if like it's going to be cross compatible with all of the other stuff, but it's been such a fun time doing that and writing the lore and stuff for that. What else I'm on? God, what else am I? I'm on a bunch. One second. Okay, there's Drit's travel log on the DM's Guild. There's a part 2 coming out that I wrote some lineages for, and I'm doing some stuff for that. And then there's also I'm I am writing some more fluff for an original work that I believe is going to be on Kickstarter for various lineages, which I'm having a lot of fun with. Like, okay, anybody that knows me knows that I love orcs. Orcs and tieflings, but orcs specifically are my favorite. I have retooled them, redone them, removed the stereotypes, made them best boys, and routinely say orcs are for black people now. Back the hell up. I mean, obviously anybody can play orcs, but like, I'm writing these like 200-word blurbs for all of the like standard races, and I'm having a lot of fun with it because one of the things that I wrote recently was about orcs like having been created by the god of death to be shepherds for the dying, and to deal with the undead, because I think a lot of like there's a big community aspect to me for orcs, and I'm like, I really feel like given that like love and community part that I think is like a big part of orc culture or should be written about more, would translate really well into taking care of taking care of community members that are sick and dying, and also dealing with undead scourges that would like directly affect the community, and also like put a hinder to any like death practices. So I've been having like an actual whole ass blast with that, and I am currently prepping to run a one shot next week as an actual like public example of my DMing, because as much as I like privately run games paid for friends, I have never been recorded doing so. And there's like a podcasting position that I'm really trying to get, but I'm really excited, like outside of trying to get that job, I'm really excited about it because one, I'm like, it's in my own personal world and it's quick one shot. And it's like, I kind of want to do more like quick, like one shots like that, or like one-on-one games with people and post it on the podcast. And it's also like letting me do some more voting. Like, okay, don't tell well, actually by the time this comes out, it'll already have happened. So I told the players like that, they're going to be 12th level, and that they're all like from my Viking analog in my setting. But what's actually going to happen is, and I had them, as they were building out their characters, I had them put like, hey, what are your stats, hit points, skills per level, and what class are you taking each level? So that when they start the game, they are in the middle of a fight to the death because they've all been condemned to death. They're oath breakers, deserters, heretics, whatever. And they're actually going to be 5th level. And then like monsters are going to join, and then they're going to be named, oh, they're the rune bound, the prophecy. And then they're going to get magical heirlooms, which me and Adam and another creator, Amber Litke, made in a product. And it's going to bump them up to 12th level. But they don't know that they're starting off at 5th level yet. So it's going to be a nice little like surprise. They don't have to do any additional work for it because I'm just going to put their sheet together for them for that. But I'm really excited to see how that goes. Like I know the people that I'm doing it with, so like I know they trust me not to do any like fuck shit, and they know there's like a little something special I'm doing at the beginning. Like I want to see how that goes, to see if it's useful for other games, or if like that's something I could introduce to like my start playing stuff, or also and just like general things to talk about, like, hey, here's some ideas for running games if your players are cool with it and you like they're okay with surprises. So very excited about, and I'm doing all the audio editing. I'm gonna grab like sound effects, everything, tossing it in there. So like that's
super cool. We're gonna have to bring you back if you're cool with coming back, so that we can actually talk about your work on the Vineyard and then everything else that's going on in your life. But I have like a meeting to get to, so I have to end the podcast. But thank you so much for coming on, VJ. And we're gonna have all of VJ's links in the description below for you to check out. Thank you so much for coming on again, and I'll see you all next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.